Hi everyone, my name is Haley and welcome back or welcome to my channel. I don't know if you can see it, but my eye has been twitching all day, so we're just gonna ignore that and pretend like it's not happening. Anyway, I'm sure you're wondering what this stack of books is behind me. I'm embarrassed to admit that these are all of the books I own that I have not read yet. I don't even want to know how many books there are, and I turned the spines around so you wouldn't be distracted and you'd have to watch the whole video to see every book that is on this list. To make it easier on myself, I separated it into genres. So here we have horror, and then this is classics, a very small stack of nonfiction, thrillers, literary fiction, Japanese fiction here, adult fantasy, YA fantasy, romance. I also have science fiction. I don't know where science fiction is. It's somewhere in there and we will find it together. I thought I would do this video because I'm getting a new bookshelf, so I had to take all my books off anyway, and it was a mission. We're feeding two birds with one scone with these two videos. So in my video next week, you will see part of it I look the same because I'm filming at the same time. But I'm sure you don't want to hear me babble on, so I'm just going to get started and show you every single book I own that I have not read yet, or also known as every single book on my physical TBR. Oh, we'll start with the nonfiction section. Since I have so many books on here, I'm not even gonna give you a synopsis unless I know exactly what it is. It'll be like one sentence. If I don't really know too much about the book, I'm not gonna give you a synopsis. You'll just know the genre. I'm so sorry, but I have somewhere to be in like an hour and no one wants to sit here for 45 minutes. Let's get started. The first book I have is Other Minds, The Octopus, the Sea, and the Deep Origins of Consciousness by Peter Godfrey Smith. This is a nonfiction book about like the brains in an octopus and how smart they are, I believe. The next book I have is Blaming the Victims, edited by Edward W. Said and Christopher Hitchens. The next book I have is The 100 Years' War on Palestine, A History of Settler Colonialism and Resistance, 1917 to 2017 by Rashid Khalidi. This, as it states, is a comprehensive history of Palestine, and I am half Palestinian. This is something that is really important to me. I know the history of Palestine, but you can never know too much, and so I wanted to pick up a couple of nonfiction books to have more in-depth knowledge about Palestine. And then the last nonfiction book I have is The Romanovs by Simon Sebag Montefiore. Don't even know if I said that correctly. This is a humongous book about the Romanov family in Russia. Moving on, we will go to classics. The first one I have is A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. I picked up a few classics when I was in Italy last year because the covers are so cool, so this one is the European cover. And then we have One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. This is a beat up copy. I haven't read it though, so this is like one of the copies you get in high school. And then we have Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. This is another European cover, and this is my boyfriend's favorite book, so I want to read it. And then Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and then we have Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. I want to read a lot more Kurt Vonnegut. I love these covers specifically, so eventually I want to have all of them. Then we have The Picture of Dorian Gray, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I've always wanted to read this. I'm never in the mood to read a classic, but is anybody ever in the mood to read a classic? So food for thought right there. And then we have Paradise Lost by John Milton. I want to read this because it is like one of the most famous like epic poems, and it has definitely inspired a lot of modern literature today. I'm pretty sure I read a little bit for my courses in college, so I just want to be like, yeah, I read Paradise Lost. That's a flex. And then we have The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. I love this cover so much. Fahrenheit 451 is one of my favorite books, and so I like to have any Ray Bradbury books I come across, and this one is just really cute. Maybe I should read this before October is over. It's like 150 pages. And then we have Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, Moby Dick by Herman Melville, something that I feel like I should read. Not that I really want to, but I feel like I should. And then we have 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. This is one of my best friend's favorite books, so I feel inclined to read it. And then we have, in the last book in this stack, Catch-22 by Joseph Heller. I don't know if I'm ever gonna read this, but again, it would be a flex to be like, I read Catch-22. And I feel like I could be reading this over a course of years. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am a big mood reader, so if I read a chapter here and there, I won't feel like too overwhelmed. Some of these books I have not touched for years. There's dust everywhere. That's why I'm doing this. Next stack is going to be a thriller stack. I usually read most of the thrillers that I own because I like YA thrillers, and that's mostly the genre of thriller that I have. So there's not really too much here, but the first one that I have is The Inheritance Games. I'm sure we all know what this is about, but it's like a girl who ends up at a high school or something, or a mansion, and she has to solve all of these riddles and stuff like that, and I'm pretty sure there's a love triangle. I want to read this. And then the next one we have is Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Boulley. I don't know too much about this book except that the main character finds someone murdered on her reservation. She's an indigenous character, so I'm really excited to read that. I've heard great things. Some of these books you will recognize from my book haul, so I'm not really going to say anything about those because I've already talked about them. But next we have Riley Sager's The Only One Left. I guess I will say something. Thriller about a girl who goes to take care of this old woman who was, what is that word? Accused? Who was accused of murdering her family, and she doesn't talk, or she types to her new caretaker that she wants to tell her everything that happened. And then we have The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. This is such a long book for a thriller. It's like almost 500 pages, and that's why I haven't read it yet. I feel like that is just so long. But if you've read this and you think it's worth it, let me know. Moving on to general literary fiction, If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. A group of Shakespeare kids in college, someone gets murdered and one of them goes to jail for it, and now we are actually learning the truth after they are released. Then we have The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. I don't know too much what this is about, but it says Colson Whitehead brilliantly dramatizes another strand of American history through the story of two boys sentenced to a hellish reform school in Jim Crow era Florida. We've all learned about the civil rights movement in school, but I want to read more books about it and just learn as much as I can, and I know that this author is very popular and writes amazing books. Okay, this one I'm just going to show all of them at once, but I have the first 4 books in the Outlander series. Okay, please tell me you can see how dusty this is. First 4 books in the Outlander series. This book series follows follows a woman who lives in Scotland, and she time travels to the past. It's also a romance. And then we have Dig by A.S. King. I've just known that this is supposed to be a really weird book, but I remember I saw someone talk about it one time years ago and saying it was one of their favorite books, but it was just weird, and so that was all I needed to want to buy it for myself. And then we have A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor Towles. This is about an aristocrat. He is sentenced to house arrest in Metropole, a grand hotel near the Kremlin, and now he has to live there during the most tumultuous decades in Russian history. Again, I don't read a lot of historical fiction or historical nonfiction, but I want to know more, so. Okay, moving on to Japanese fiction, we have Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. This is another one of my boyfriend's favorite books. I've actually read 75 pages of this, but that was 2 years ago. We have Scattered All Over the Earth by Yoko Tawada. I don't know too much about what it's about. I'll read you the last sentence. It says, with its intrepid band of companions scattered all over the earth, the first novel of a trilogy, hold on, I didn't know that, may bring to mind Alice's Adventures in Wonderland or A Surreal Wind in the Willows, but really it's just another sui generis Yoko Tawada masterwork. So I think it's just gonna be weird, and I love weird Japanese fiction books. Okay, and then we have Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. I've heard so many great things about this book. I really like science fiction, which is what this seems to be. Really excited for that. And then we have In the Miso Soup by Ryu Murakami. Incredibly, Maki was still on her feet and still alive, her eyeballs swiveling wildly and her lips quivering as she wheezed foam-flecked blood from the wound in her throat. She seemed to be trying to say something. Sounds very interesting. And then we have Kappa by Ryunosuke Okutagawa. This man is a patient at an asylum, and he falls into the world of Kappas, which are this little guy right here, and when he comes back he hates modern day Japan and sees all the problems with it because he was in this world of Kappas and liked the way that they lived. Another Haruki Murakami, we have A Wild Sheep Chase. Don't know really what it's about, but sounds pretty cool when I read it years ago. And then we have The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. So on an island, objects are disappearing and most of the inhabitants are oblivious to these changes, while those few able to recall the lost objects live live in fear of the draconian memory police who are committed to ensuring that what has disappeared remains forgotten, which is such a cool concept. And then the next two are both by Hiroko Oyamada. We have The Hole and Weasels in the Attic. These are very small books, both pretty weird and surrealistic, so I love books like that. And then we have another Kazuo Ishiguro, and this is When We Were Orphans. I literally bought this today at the library because they were having like a library sale. Don't know what it's about, but I knew I wanted to read Clara and the Sun, so I wanted to pick this up. The last one in Japanese fiction is Haruki Murakami's IQ84. I did pick this for my September TBR jar picks my reads for the month. This book is almost 1,000 pages long, so it was honestly so dumb of me to think I could read it in September. So it is still on my physical TBR because there is no way as a mood reader I can just force myself to read something like this. I think it's, again, surrealistic Japanese fiction. That's what Murakami is known for, and eventually I will get to this. Okay, next we have horror. This is Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Kah. Next is Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. And then we have 19 Claws and a Blackbird by Augustina Bazterrica. This is a short story collection. And then we have Supermarket by Bobby Hall, also known as Logic. And I, for the longest time, didn't know that he wrote this book, but that's pretty cool. And then we have Sign Here by Claudio Lux. I think this is a YA thriller or horror, if I am remembering correctly. And then we have Stephen King's Fairy Tale. I've never read a Stephen King, but it was on sale at Costco, so I thought I would give it a try. And then we have A Certain Hunger by Chelsea G. Summers. I think this is about cannibalism. I'm not sure though. The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells, a classic again, but I want to watch the movie and I feel like I should read this first. The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I'm gonna be honest with you, I made it 28 pages through this book and the writing style is not what I'm used to at all. It kind of put me in a slump, so I stopped reading it. And so now I'm scared to pick it up again, but I know it's really good. And so I really want to read it. The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. Grady Hendrix books always look really interesting to me, but I have never read one, so I feel like I should get on that. And then another Stephen Graham Jones book, My Heart is a Chainsaw. This is about like a slasher in this girl's hometown, and she's obsessed with 80s slashers and is trying to figure out what's going on. And then the last horror book we have is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This is about a house that is bigger on the inside than the outside, and it's written in the form of like a manuscript that's been passed around on the internet, so there's a lot of different formats it's written in to tell this whole story. Next we can start here with adult fantasy, and here I have the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This is also from Costco. Never read it, but it's a classic, so I feel like I need to read it and I want to read it. Then we have Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. I don't know too much about this. I just recognized the name because, again, I saw Per Use Project talk about it years ago, and I saw it and I was like, maybe I should just give it a try. Then we have The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. This is a fantasy book rooted in Middle Eastern mythology, I'm pretty sure. As I said earlier, I am half Palestinian, and so I want to read a lot more stories about Middle Eastern characters, Middle Eastern mythology by Middle Eastern authors, all that stuff. So I need to read this. Along that same vein, we have The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This trilogy got so much hype, and I know I'm late to the game, but I really want to read it, and it's stunning, and I've been looking for a good fantasy series to just immerse myself in, and I feel like that's exactly what this will be. The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, obviously. Don't have much to say about that. A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross. The Bone Orchard by Sarah A. Mueller. The Trader Borrow Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. I'm running out of space to put these books after I'm done talking about them. A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. A Shadow Crown by Melissa Blair, the second book in the Halfling Saga series. Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, which is the sequel to Ninth House, which is one of my favorite books. And then we have Vampires of El Norte by Isabel Cañas. And then here we have the Broken Earth trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. I've had these probably for 2.5 years now. Haven't read them. I don't know where to put these, and I don't want them to fall over and get damaged. And then we have The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin and Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune. Alright, another stack done, I am going to put these on the floor so that I can have more room to go through the rest of these. This is more adult fantasy. So first we have The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. I honestly don't know if I'm ever going to read this, but it's there if I want to. And then we have Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. I want to watch the show, but I need to read this before I do that. And then we have Anansi Boys or Anansi Boys by Neil Gaiman, Babel by R.F. Kuang. We have The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I am actually like 160 pages into this, but I haven't finished it yet. And then we have Book of Night by Holly Black. This is an ARC that I got while I was working at Barnes & Noble. Vita Nostra by Marina and Sergei Dyachenko. I think this is a Russian book, but everyone that I've heard talk about it says it's really good. It says the definitive English language translation of the internationally best-selling Russian novel, a brilliant dark fantasy combining psychological suspense, enchantment, and terror that makes us consider human existence in a fresh and provocative way. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This is a cozy fantasy. This is Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. This is actually a sequel. The first one is Kings of the Wild. Haven't read that either, but we got this at a used bookstore I used to work at, so I snagged it. And then we have The Dragon Republic and the Burning God by R.F. Kuang. I'm terrified to read these. That's literally the only reason I have not read them yet. And then we have this trilogy, The Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. This was like on sale on some website for extremely cheap, and I was very confused as to why. I bought it because I was like, maybe I will want to read this in the future and I will be saving money. That was like 3 years ago. But if you've read this trilogy, please let me know if you liked it, because I don't really see a lot of people talk about it. And then here we have the Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. I have read up to part 2 of the first book, but I don't know if I just wasn't in the right headspace when I started reading it. The last book that we have in the adult fantasy section is The Wheel of Time, The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan, the first book in this series. I think I have a problem where I want to do things that would let me flex on people. Like, imagine I could say I've read the Wheel of Time series. That's insane, but I still want to be able to say that. So I have this for the sole purpose that I can at least say I own it, because that's pretty cool too. Okay, moving on to YA fantasy and sci-fi, we have The Bane Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, Sarah Reese Brennan, and Maureen Johnson. 6 Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. The Blood Heir by Amelie Wen Zhao. Am I showing this to you properly? We have A Winter's Promise by Christelle Dabos. Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. God Killer by Hannah Kainer. A Magic Steeped in Poison and A Venom Dark and Sweet. This is a duology. A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. I like the new covers, so I might get those instead of these, but I also don't know if I'm gonna continue this series. I feel like it's come and gone, but maybe I should continue it. Let me know if I should continue it. Vicious by V.E. Schwab with these beautiful sprayed edges. Iron Widow by Jiron J. Zhao. I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Oh, remember how I said I had a science fiction stack and I didn't know where it went? It's here. So we're gonna interrupt the YA sci-fi fantasy section and move on to adult science fiction. We have The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. Another one of my good friends recommended this to me. It's one of their favorite books, and I feel bad I haven't read it yet. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. I don't know what happened to the cover of this, but it's like all banged up. Then we have The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I've never watched the show. I'm the type of person that wants to read the material before watching it. Counterweight by Juna. Translation State by Anne Leckie. The Mountain and the Sea by Ray Naylor. The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is Found Family space opera, I'm pretty sure. Arthur C. Clarke, 2001 A Space Odyssey. Isaac Asimov's Foundation. Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert. Starsight by Brandon Sanderson. I really enjoyed Skyward, but I don't even remember what happened in that book. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but it's the illustrated version by Chris Riddell, and his illustrations are just so beautiful. They're just so good. I love them. The last one in the science fiction section is going to be The Blood Gift by Annie Davenport. I will always recommend to read The Blood Trials. That's the first book in this duology. So good. Okay, we're down to our last 2 stacks. Books are so far away from me now. Continuing the YA science fiction and fantasy section, we have Legendborn by Tracy Dion, Gallant by V.E. Schwab, The Beautiful and the Damned by Renee Ahdieh, but this is like a glossy cover and this is a matte cover. I don't know how that happened. Princess Will Save You by Sarah Henning. I like this cover. I don't really know how good this book is, but the cover's so pretty. Kingdom of Exiles by Maxim M. Martineau, and the modern fairy tales that has Teeth, Valiant, and Ironside all in one. My best friend bought this for me for my birthday one year, and I absolutely love the Folk in the Air series, so I need to read more Holly Black. And then we have Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson, who wrote Sorcery of Thorns, and How the King of Elfhame Learned Hate Stories by Holly Black. This is All of Our Demise by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. This is the sequel and the last book in the All of Us Villains duology. The Dragon's Promise by Elizabeth Lim, and this is a sequel to Six Crimson Cranes, I believe, and I always love Elizabeth Lim's covers. They are so beautiful. And then we have Extasia by Claire Legrand. I tried to read Furyborn by her and I just did not like it, so I hope I get better results with this one. And then we have Unravel the Dusk by Elizabeth Lim. This is the sequel to Spin the Dawn, which I listened to on audio, and I have it. I love that book. I thought it was so much fun, and again, a beautiful cover. The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. I'm literally so excited to read this. I don't know why I haven't yet, but I want to jump back into the Folk in the Air world so bad. Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. When I still was getting my Fairy Loot subscription, I didn't even remember that I got this, and I really wanted to read it, but I never bought like a regular copy. So now I'm thinking to myself, do I want to read the Fairy Loot edition? Maybe I'll read it on my Kindle and then I'll have this. But this edition is so beautiful and I'm excited to read this as well. And then we have Ghost of the Shadow Market by Cassandra Clare and a few other authors. These are just like short stories in the Shadowhunter world. These types of books, like this one and Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, The Bane Chronicles, they're not the highest on my priority list because I want to read the main series first and like other books on my TBR. So these I usually read like a story here and there. So the last three books in this stack are the Last Hours trilogy. So I have all three of them right here. Obviously I have not started them yet because after this series there's only one more she's writing in the Shadowhunters universe, and I'm not ready for that to end because those are my emotional support books. And I'm currently as I've been doing for like a year, a reread of all of the Shadowhunter books, and I'm only on book 5 of City of Bones. So it's not doing too well and I want to reread all of the books before I read this. I don't know when I'm getting to these, but I hope soon. We've made it to the last stack and it is the romance stack. So we have With Love from Cold World by Alicia Thompson, who also wrote Love in the Time of Serial Killers. I read half of that and I don't know why I never finished it, but I really enjoyed it while I was reading it and I love this cover so much. This is like an enemies to lovers, forced proximity, work environment romance, which is everything I love. Please don't fall. Please don't fall. As books are falling. Stop! Just stay where you are, please. The next three books are the remaining books in the Magnolia Parks universe. I've read the first one, I really loved it, and I've started Daisy Hates. I'm 70 pages through, but I might just restart it. And I'm really happy I have these covers instead of the new ones because I don't like the new ones. And then we have Under Lock by Mariana Zapata. This is like age gap, tattoo artist, love interest, I think. It's been a long time since I've read a Mariana Zapata book, so I'm excited to read this. And then we have the League of Gentlewomen Witches and the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels, both by India Holton. I don't read a lot of like historical fiction romance, but these are so cute. I love them so much, and I'm pretty sure there's a third one, but I do not have it. Things We Hide from the Light by Lucy Score. A big reason why I haven't read this yet is because I heard it's not as good as the first book, which is Things We Never Got Over, and I really like that book, so I don't want to be disappointed, so I just haven't read this yet. And then we have The Worst Best Man by Mia Sosa and The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. Next we have Go Hex Yourself by Jessica Clare, and then Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma and You Had Me at Ola by Alexis Daria. Next we have A Rogue of One's Own by Evie Dunmore. This is part of A League of Extraordinary Women series. I read the first one, which is, I don't even remember what it's called. It's It's a beige cover and I liked it, so I picked up the second one. And then we have a season for Second Chances. I don't own any holiday romance books, and so I really want to get to this December and get me in the holiday spirit. The next two books I have I also bought in Italy, so these are the European covers. But we have Beach Read and Book Lovers, both by Emily Henry. And then we have The Right Move by Liz Tomford. This is the next book in the Windy City series. This follows the best friend and the brother from the first book. Really excited for that. It's like forced proximity in the moment we've all been waiting for. The last book that is on my physical TBR is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Again, I love Ali Hazelwood's books, and this is a workplace rivals, enemies to lovers romance. I don't even want to show you the aftermath of this, but I guess I will if you want to see, so here you go. This is not even funny. This is just this is just sad. I know I have a lot of books on my physical TBR. I know I have a problem, okay? The first step of remedying a problem is recognizing that you have one. So we're making big moves here. Please tell me you also have a lot of books on your physical TBR so I don't feel alone and ashamed, because this is honestly just outrageous. I don't know how I let this happen. I am making it a New Year's resolution to read one physical book I own before I buy a new one, or I have to read however many physical books I own before I buy however many new books. So hopefully I can stick to that and we won't have another one of these videos in the future where I have too many books. Let me know if any of these are on your TBR, if you've read any of them, what you've thought about them. I just want to know your thoughts. Let me know which book you think I should read first, and maybe I'll do a reading vlog on that. This took me forever and I'm not excited to put any of these away. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!